is recorded to be one of the most pirated software on the internet. That's expensive! Most people want stuff for not expensive. It's simply because no one cares. It's a good day when the birds ruin your audio. Oh gosh, we're recording. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with Adobe, and if you somehow don't know what Adobe is, it's basically EA, but less functional and less cool because it's not games that they make. Adobe is a company that makes a plethora of different softwares for different spaces of the creative industry. You have families of apps like the Creative Cloud and Adobe Substance, you have Adobe Acrobatics and all that stuff, but there is a well-known dark fact about Adobe's Creative Cloud, and that is everything in that cloud is so easily piratable. In fact, Adobe's flagship product, Photoshop, is recorded to be one of the most pirated software on the internet. So why and how is Adobe software so easy to pirate? And why does Adobe just not give a shit about any of it and let everyone get away? Hi, I'm generally curious why not a lot of people have talked about this, and we still don't have an official intro. So first of all, some context, because there is a strange factor that we have to take in. Adobe's flagship product Photoshop is an industry-leading software for general photo editing processes. You can remove backgrounds, make drawings, edit photos, add light, and so much more just from this one software. And this makes Photoshop pretty desirable. But here's the thing, it's not just Photoshop. Nearly everything in the Nearly everything from the Adobe Creative Cloud can easily be pirated, most of the time virus-free, from just one Google or YouTube search, or everything from Premiere Pro to Adobe Animate to Dreamweaver to Illustrator. Next to everything can easily be obtainable with great ease. Now, note that I said next to everything in the Creative Cloud, because Adobe has other clouds, but why aren't they nearly as piratable as the creative stuff? Now, it's not because Adobe has some secret piracy-free level software or some super anti-theft program. It's simply because no one cares. Pretty much everything Adobe makes has the same level of protection. It's just most people care about the Creative Cloud stuff because that has industry-leading Adobe stuff. Premiere Pro is pretty well ahead in the video editing space. Photoshop is basically untouchable by anything else. Adobe Animate's doing pretty well as well. And if we take a look at Adobe Substance, it's basically Blender split into 4 different software. And yes, it is more expensive than Blender because you see, Blender is free, and Adobe costs money. Got all that? Great, now everything's making noise in the background. Hey, do you know I want to kill? Now, why? Why is Adobe so easy piratable? Well, remember when I said Adobe costs money? No big deal. I'm sure Adobe will be like $2. I'm sure it's not a big fee you have to pay. What is this? That's expensive. Most people want stuff for not expensive. Combine the expensive thing with the fact that most of the stuff in the Creative Cloud is industry leading, then people are going to have enough motivation to find alternative methods. And what are these devious, dark alternative methods that these absolute script kiddies try and... Why don't I end my YouTube career right here? Well, there's one thing you gotta know about Adobe. Adobe software can be downloaded in 3 different ways. Number 1 is through the Creative Cloud app, which, since the app already has access to different corners of your computer, it instantly has the access to the folders necessary to build the software within. Number 2 is through the Microsoft Store, which has similar reasons to the Creative Cloud, but it's method number 3 that starts to raise the sales. The third way is through Adobe's website itself. But when you choose to purchase and download a program, it doesn't give you the program directly like the other 2 methods do, because most companies assume that the internet browser you use can only access the downloads folder of your computer. So instead, Adobe gives you a setup, which then puts all the cogs in place because now it has access to the rest of the computer. Once you're granted, of course. And out of all 3 of these methods, pretty much all pirators will use the third one. How do I know this? because every single pirated link does the exact same thing. Don't ask me how I know. The only difference being is that these pirators have figured out a way to cut the connection off between the software and the Creative Cloud, thus not forcing you to pay the thing, the fine, the subscription. You see, Adobe has a weak DRM, and if you don't know what a DRM is, then don't worry, I didn't know either. A DRM is a digital rights manager, which basically is a managing program for the legal rights of digital content. It usually is used to restrict unknown and unwanted access to digital programs and keep everything copywritten. And Adobe's DRM is heavily reliant on their subscription model, which we all know isn't that effective. Now, I know some people are just going to be like, oh, why does Adobe just make a good DRM then? They can just do that, right? It's that simple. Silver bullet all your point. Emoji. Well, it's really not that easy. You see, Adobe has to go through a bunch of legal challenges to implement a good DRM. One, they have to do a bunch of that thing. They have to do some enforcement challenges, cross-border distribution, international treaties and agreements, legislation risks, and the whole thing is just one big cat and mouse game because pirates are going to find a way around it anyway. Do we have any more details on these legal battles? No, because Adobe isn't keen on sharing them, and my new computer research team,
ChatGPT,
can't find anything. Also, if Adobe does introduce a good DRM, if you've ever used Adobe before, you know every single feature they add just breaks the whole thing instantly. And the last big major thing to tie up all these three categories in a nice blood-soaked bow is the sheer amount of YouTube tutorials and pirated download links that just exist. There are legitimately so many links and tutorials that if you were to lay them down as bricks, you probably had enough to remake the towers. And based on the amount alone, I don't think they're going to be stopped by any Adobe Aero plane. That was stupid. And yeah, that's all I've got to say about Adobe, really. For those of you who got just bored away, I can honestly understand, as I realize we don't have an official outro either. Wait, so every outro just ends with me getting cut off with funny music playing in the background? Why the hell does every outro gotta end with me getting cut off?